Hello everyone, welcome back to Heavy Metal Gaming. Today we're going to talk about my AutoDrive repository. Uh, as you can see here, I am on the Hawke's Bay map. This is not the save that I am using for my Let's Play. It is another save dedicated just for creating an AutoDrive network for this map, which I've gotten started on. And I'm going to work on here for a minute while I talk. Whoops, and unfortunately I forgot that I had that mod in here so that when you click on things it switches to them. Not the best mod to have when you're trying to author an AutoDrive network, so note that if you plan on doing that. But I'm trying to make a collection in a single place that's easily accessible for everyone of AutoDrive networks. And the reason for that is because I know that I myself have had a hard time sometimes finding networks for maps that I would like to play. And I've spent time creating networks only to find out later that someone else already had a network for that map and it was published, just not in a place that made it easily accessible to everyone. So, or easily searchable even by Google. So I'm trying to rectify that. We're going to call this silo discharge shoot. Oops, not shoot, just shoot. Spelled it right. Enter. And that needs to be moved to the yard. I do, for all of my networks, I do sort everything with the folder option. I do find that to be the best way by a significant margin. It can be very confusing when you load up somebody else's route network and they have no organization or very strange organization. It can be very difficult to determine what you actually need to be looking at. Now, I have a nifty trick. This is a little bit out of the scope of the purpose of this video, but since I have to do it here, I thought I'd show you guys. Nifty trick that I learned from someone else's route. If you put two waypoints really close together like this, it causes a significant slowdown for the tractor or, well, whatever vehicle is driving the route. Which in this case, on this map, is necessary, especially when you're coming in through a gate and the gate's swinging outwards. You want to slow your vehicle down so that the gate has time to swing outwards. The map where I saw this done at was the Griffin, Indiana map. You will find that in my repository currently, and it was pretty cool because they used it to slow down for railroad crossings. I found that a really unique and interesting addition. Very realistic. For anyone who has not created an AutoDrive network before, you do not have to be incredibly precise to do this. As you saw, I can adjust it with the mouse. There's always ways to fix it, and I'm going to have to fix this whole route because I'm from the US and I'm used to driving on the right side of the road. This is a New Zealand map, and you should be driving on the left side of the road. So I'm going to have to fix this entire thing. So what we're going to do right now is stop recording, loop around, and fix that before I do a test drive. Once I've done my test drive, oops, and see what happens if you don't stop or slow down far enough away from the gate. You crash into it. I'll fix this too. This looks kind of messy. But yeah, you can fix and tweak your network as needed to make things smoother, more accurate, work with different vehicles. I try really hard to make all of my networks that I author from scratch or that I do any heavy editing on as smooth as possible so that everyone can use them easily. I try to account for the largest vehicle that is practical for that specific map. Sometimes I don't do that to some people's preferences, and they try using a huge semi-tractor trailer to drive around a map that it's really not appropriate to use such large vehicles for. But hey, to each their own. I'm a firm believer in it's your game. Play it how you want to play it. But if you're doing something that's really far out there, you just understand that you might need to make adjustments to the AutoDrive network. Now, I do open source all the networks that I create and require the same licensing for any networks that are submitted to my repository. So speaking of the repository, why don't I take a break from editing here and let's go have a look at that repository. Okay, so here we are looking at the repository that I mentioned, and first thing you will note at this point in time is that there are currently 5 maps that there are AutoDrive networks for. Griffin, Indiana, Lucas Island, Ravensburg, Spectacle Island, and the 16x version of Western Australia. I authored the Lucas Island. The others were all contributed, or in the case of Spectacle Island, it's a heavily edited version by me of someone else's original. But they had a lot of issues with their version, and so I spent quite a bit of time editing it, enough that it could essentially be just mine. I went through almost every single route on the network. Each individual map, if we go into Griffin, Indiana here, includes the map info, which is the name of the map with a link to it, who it's by, which should be on the next line. I obviously need to edit it. This network was given to me on a Discord, and I do not know who the original author is. So for now, it is author unknown. If the original author ever comes across this video or my repository, wishes to take credit and continue to allow it to be in the repository, then obviously I will edit this README. If they wish for their work to not be part of the repository, I will also remove it, since I did add this particular one without permission or any licensing that said that I could add it. The network description talks about any potential issues and other information that's useful for the user. The only thing noted for this particular network is that it has some pretty tight corners in certain places, but all sale points, mission points, and fields should be covered. There are no translations available for the repository. And then we have a section that talks about all the destinations. Now, I did notice that during my editing that there are actually a couple of fields missing. Editing of the README, I should say. That there are a couple fields missing. So this statement here of all points being covered may not be accurate. I have no idea what fields 20 and 21 actually are and whether they should be included with stops or not. if they should be, potentially I will update this with another edit of my own. But it talks about not only the fields, but also anything at the farm, all the parking, which this author actually put in quite a lot of the parking. I rarely do parking on my own networks because I prefer to park my vehicles myself. The BGA, including everything that you can do with the BGA. Points of interest, which is usually just the shop and fuel station and the animal dealer. In this particular case, it also includes mission points where you do transport missions to and from, and also end of road points and designated by what field they are closest to. Which, since this one's at field 20, that's part of why I wasn't sure if field 20 should be done as a field or if it's being handled via this point. I don't know the original author's intent. We have all of our sale points and all of our buy points, although I have no idea what STN is in this context. I don't actually play this map, and when I ran a quick test, it wasn't apparent to me what that was actually supposed to be. In fact, I didn't even see anything there, so I'm wondering if it's possibly a placeable that the original author added. There were a few of those that were definitive placeables that I removed from the network for general publication. So that's basically what they look like. This one I did give credit to the original author, as he deserves, and it includes a nice map that he did in the AutoDrive standalone editor, which is a pretty cool thing from him. I would like to start doing it with all of my networks as well. It does include all the same information, slightly different formatting because I didn't change his README that much, but it's the relevant information is all there. This particular one has a section that he called non-standard structures underneath the destinations. I would instead call it non-standard vehicles because it is for the barge. This map has a barge and a grain boat that you can use. I do not recommend that you use them with this AutoDrive network, should you happen to download this and use it yourself. Basically, because of how the boats handle, they do not follow the network very well, and you will encounter a lot of issues. And I'm sure that's true of any map that has that capability built into it. The other important thing to know is, of course, how do you use an AutoDrive network that is hosted on GitHub like this? It's pretty straightforward and simple. In each maps folder, you will have an AutoDrive _ config.xml file. That file simply needs to be downloaded and placed in the save game folder for the save game of that map. You can kind of preload this by figuring out what empty save game you want to start a new game in and downloading it to that folder before you start a new game. That works, provided that you actually do remember to start it in that exact save game. Now, something to be aware of is that if you delete that save game, it will delete all files, including the AutoDrive config file. So you will either want to keep a backup of it or have it as part of a repository like this. The final thing that I would like to talk about today regarding my network is contributing. As you can see here, I have myself, Morella, and 84 BKA fan 29 via Argsy, who's the one who actually got me the network, but I wanted to credit the original author as well, listed under contributors. Anyone can contribute to this, provided they follow the contributing instructions in the contributing README file and accept that anything in this repository is licensed under the license specified in the repository. Both of those files can be found in the main folder of the repository in the root, with detailed instructions on how to contribute, what the requirements are, what the optional extras are. Pardon me, I seem to have quite the unhappy throat tonight. How to extract the network desktop